So this will be the first video, and what'll hopefully be a series on the Amiga 12,000, and probably have a bit of crossover into my Amiga 500 as well. If you've watched the Amiga 500 videos, you know that I took a dead motherboard and got it to the point where I have a operational system, though I don't have a case keyboard, an Amiga 500 keyboard or floppy. I'm working on finding those parts as well, but because an Amiga 1200 made its way to me, and all the good things I've read about it, I decided just to dive in to the 1200 and see what I could make it do. So I finally found an Amiga 1200 here in the US. The price was reasonable. It was actually not that far away from where I live, so shipping was reasonable. I had looked at importing from Europe, and the shipping is just so astronomical. So really, even before the 1200 was in my hand, I started collecting bits and pieces based on research to do the things I wanted to do with it, and I thought we'd dive into a bit of that here. So there's a number of things here on the bench. We'll unbox a couple of things. We'll look at some of the hardware I've acquired, and we'll go from there. So of course it requires recapping. It's just par for the course. We'll take a look at the caps in this when we get to the point of actually doing the recapping, and see if I want to, especially the surface mount, make the jump, since those are a little more difficult than through hole to put on. Maybe not more difficult, but more fiddly, maybe, in my opinion. I ordered up most of this, these bits and pieces came out of Europe. I ordered up a little SD card adapter for the 1200 to put an operating system on. It came with a little cable that goes inside of the Amiga. I then did some more reading and realized maybe actually using an SD card, or a compact flash card, instead, was better. So I went ahead and ordered. These came off of eBay, so just a little generic adapter, a card, and I found a supplier of cables in the US here, actually. Got two of these cables in the US, and this one came out of Europe. Again, I've actually made a bit of progress on the 1200 without shooting video, and the A1200 came with this disk on chip module with Workbench 3.1 on it, just a minimal install. I've actually got a compact flash card in the system, and I've done a fresh install of Workbench 3.1 on it. I actually have the Workbench 3.1.4 kit coming with the Kickstart 3.1 ROMs. The current machine has Kickstart 3.0 ROMs in it. I had a lot of issues with creating partitions that actually worked, but I think we'll look at that in a future video. I've actually gotten to the point where I have an operational PCM CIA port. I ended up with a couple of these off eBay for like $2 or $3 a piece, and then one that I ordered out of Europe as well. I've been able to get a 128 megabyte compact flash card working to be able to transfer files. I think some of the limitations and issues I'm having are due to the Workbench 3.0 ROMs, although I don't know that for sure. I'm having issues with large partitions, but 120 megabytes to move stuff around with is just fine and dandy. Picked up a little power cable. I think this is kind of meant more for the A500 project. I probably should have got a longer one, but I have a little floppy power cable. A couple items here we'll unbox, and then I kind of went crazy from individual computers, just looking at stuff I knew I wanted to do. And let's go ahead and open these guys up and take a look at what we've got. So the first thing here I picked up was the a clock port RTC module, some case screws for the original A1200 case, just because I didn't have a full set of screws. Along with this, and this is the thing I was really after that I picked up, is, I don't know if I can get it out of the bag, is the ACA 1233N processor card. This is a 68030 40 megahertz. I think it's 128 megabytes of RAM. There is a spot here for an FPU, but as they say in their instructions, they don't support the FPU themselves or the installation. I may look in a future video of installing an FPU, but it'll be kind of cool to get a little stronger processor in there. So we should have that guy coming up in a future video, hopefully. This looks like it's a pretty straightforward install. Shuffle stuff back into the box here so I don't lose it. I plan to use the RTC, I think, on the internal clock port on the A1200 itself. And I believe I can make this combination of hardware work. We'll find out. And I'm not sure which unit's in this box. And that's because I picked up a Rapid Road USB controller from them as well. And I believe this guy will go on, should go onto the clock port on that CPU card. And give me a couple of USB ports. So I'm looking forward to that. It should be kind of a fun project. Say the build quality on these devices from Rapid Road look, really nice. They look very professional to me. And then the last thing from individual computers is this guy. And this is their DVI video controller. It snaps in over one of the chips on the A1200 motherboard and gives you DVI and VGA output. Hopefully this will be a nice upgrade. After buying it and reading more, it still says you can have some issues with noise artifacts in the video stream. And there can be some overheating, I guess, in one of the chips on the A1200 motherboard that causes video issues, and they suggest a heat sink. It's an interesting install in that they've machined the socket down. I'm sure there's been 100 videos on this, but they've machined this socket down and actually snaps down over the top of a chip on the A1200 motherboard. Still getting this thing, getting away from, in the A500 videos you saw me using that essentially up converter box, and getting away from that, where I'm not up converting and getting all those video artifacts should be nice. So kind of excited about that. It'll be interesting to see what I can do with it, and I think it'll be nice having a little larger workbench, pixel-wise, to play with. These two boxes arrived in the mail this morning. Actually, yesterday I picked them up out of the post this morning. Here's what I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and open these two guys up. I know what one of them is. I honestly don't remember what the other one is. I'm at the moment not remembering what's in this box. I'm kind of excited about this for a number of reasons. Let's get the box open here if we can. Yes, I know Dave Jones uses a real knife. I use a bloody X-Acto blade. That's fine. Let's go ahead and pop him open. So saw these on eBay. When I first had the A1200, I questioned just how operational the board was, and saw these diagnostic ROM packages, and have done some research, and of course it's the Diag ROM diagnostics. I don't remember the gentleman's name who's written this. I actually read his article saying, what does he think about somebody on eBay using his Diag ROMs? They do appear to be public domain, including source, or at least available, and selling pre-made modules like this. And he basically said the guy who makes these actually gives him some kickback for the ROM code, so he's okay with it. I didn't pick up the programming adapter. These interested me because they're flash memory based, so I can reburn later images of the Diag ROM into them. I could also throw Kickstart ROM images into them if I wanted to. So it gives me a lot of flexibility. I haven't actually looked at these yet, but they look very nicely built. One of the things he says on eBay is he's actually using these pin headers, which do respect the socket. So these aren't very large pins that will flex out the pins in the IC socket and cause intermittent issues in the future. These look well made, well designed. So we'll do a video on throwing in the diagnostic ROMs and running the A1200 and just seeing what we can do with it. One of the things I read, and it's a really nice thing, is you can come up in a mode by holding down one of the mouse buttons where the diagnostic wakes up. It doesn't really use the video hardware for I/O or the keyboard. It actually talks through the serial port. So assuming you had enough of a processor and RAM and a serial port operational, you could get into the diagnostic RAM and actually exercise the system. So, you know, with a minimal amount of functional hardware, that could be useful. So, you know, if you've got failed video, that would keep you from seeing the output on this. That's the serial port. So that's pretty cool. Those will be fun to play with. This box, it's not very heavy. I honestly don't remember what's in it. I think, as you can see, I've bought a fair amount of stuff. I've actually spent more than I should have, but that's typical of me when I get excited about a new machine and want to dive all in. And I'm really impressed with the community I've discovered out there. Oh, I do remember what this is now. I picked this up simply because it was a second set of floppies. You may have seen in one of my A500 videos where I picked up a workbench. It's you know, an official workbench floppy set. And this is just a backup set to that. At least that's what I'm hoping it is, because I wasn't sure the first set I bought were operational. So these are version 1.2, which is interesting. And the other set I've got, I believe, are version 1.3. Hopefully I'm keeping this all somewhat in frame. So the other set that we looked at, yeah, these were Workbench 1.3. Anyhow, I picked this up actually specifically for the A500, not knowing if the other floppies would boot. Anyhow, so it gives me a couple of original floppy sets on a couple different versions. I do like having original media if I can get my hands on it. So that's why I forgot what this was. I'm right now thinking A1200, not A500. The other thing, and it's not in shot here, was I did pick up one of the new reproduction A1200 cases. It's here. It looks really nice. I went with the white one. I won't even remove that case from the box till I get to the point where the hardware's finished and the software's installed and I'm really ready to transplant it into a new box. I won't throw that on video here. As I've said a couple times here, there's lots of video out there on the things I'm doing here. Nothing I'm doing here is going to be particularly unique, but I'm going to do the work, so I'll go ahead and videotape it. Videotape, boy, you can tell my age. I'll go ahead and shoot video of that work, and if a few people are interested, why not? Appreciate the feedback from everybody on the A500 videos. Again, there was nothing groundbreaking in those beyond me bumbling and learning about the A500. Appreciate the feedback. And I guess I'll just wrap this mini unboxing future look at some A1200 videos up, and we'll talk soon.